As Fabius calmly tells Hoffman to lower his voice, Hoffman becomes visibly angered. He thinks to himself that just a few years ago, Fabius was the very man who used to flatter him endlessly, and now he dares to speak with such audacity. Frustrated, Hoffman stands up abruptly and demands to know if Fabius has lost his mind. However, Fabius, maintaining a composed expression, replies that it is not he who has lost his mind. It is Hoffman who refuses to accept reality. He reminds Hoffman that Dimitry has never once bowed, not even before the mighty empire of Kronos. Fabius, with a serious and determined tone, tells Hoffman that no matter how many coins he clutches in his hands by the end of the day, money cannot solve every problem in this world. He adds that Dimitry has not crossed any line so far and has remained remarkably gentlemanly in his dealings. But Fabius warns that if Hoffman continues to treat Dimitry as an enemy, then Dimitry will be left with no choice but to make their own decisive move. Fabius then questions what gives Hoffman the confidence to act so arrogantly, asking whether Hoffman truly believes that his gold will save him if Dimitry ever decides to retaliate. Hoffman is left speechless by these words. Shocked, he recalls the terrifying reputation of Dimitri's elite order unit. Fabius then advises him clearly that if he has no intention of starting a war against Dimitry, he should learn his place. Enraged and humiliated, Hoffman storms out of the room. As he leaves, Fabius sighs in relief and says with a faint smile that now that the nuisance is gone, it's time for a proper conversation between the true decision-makers. Turning to Vincent, Fabius proposes that they discuss matters openly. Confused, Vincent asks what Fabius means by main players. Fabius patiently explains that cutting ties with the Golden Bank will directly affect the Vincent family's interests. Of course, he adds, Dimitry will make sure Vincent is fairly compensated for any losses. Vincent seems surprised by this statement, but Fabius reassures him that Dimitry is not a cold or heartless nation. Deeply relieved, Vincent thanks Fabius sincerely for saving his life and offering him protection. Meanwhile, far away, Hoffman walks alone, his anger burning inside him. He cannot accept that even the most powerful nation on the continent, the Kronos Empire itself, acknowledges his influence, and yet Dimitry dares to humiliate him. Looking up at a portrait of his late father, Hoffman recalls his father's words. If he ever faced a situation that money could not solve, he should seek out the hidden secret of the Golden Bank. Hoffman had never imagined that such a day would come during his lifetime. Determined, Hoffman opens the heavy gate to the secret vault, an ancient chamber shrouded in mystery. For generations, the origin of the Golden Bank had remained one of the greatest enigmas of the continent. No one knew where it had come from or how it had accumulated such vast and immeasurable wealth. Yet one fact was undeniable. The first president of the Golden Bank was no ordinary man. He was none other than Alexander himself. As Hoffman stands before the relics of his ancestors, he begins to uncover the true meaning and purpose behind the Golden Bank's existence. The scene then transitions to 1 month later. Marquis Valentino arrives and inquires from Roman's butler, Henry, whether Roman has finished forging the new sword. Henry respectfully replies that Roman has not yet completed it. Hearing this, Marquis Valentino instructs Henry to inform him immediately the moment the sword is finished, emphasizing that he must be the first to know. After giving the order, Marquis Valentino departs but continues to visit Dimitry frequently, asking Henry each time if the sword is ready. Each time, Henry gives the same response: it is not yet complete. Eventually, Marquis Valentino grows impatient and tells Henry that he can no longer wait in the guest room. Instead, he insists on waiting directly in front of the forge. Henry tries to explain that this is not possible, but Valentino, frustrated, argues that he will wait there quietly if necessary. Henry apologizes again, stating that he cannot allow it. Watching the exchange, Henry thinks to himself that this time, Roman is taking an unusually long time to complete a sword. He begins to wonder if perhaps something unexpected has happened. The scene then shifts to the forge room, where Roman is intensely focused on forging his sword. Outside, we see Henry standing alongside Felix, both watching the smithy with growing curiosity. Henry turns to Felix and instructs him to use magic to see what is happening inside. Felix nods and replies, "Understood." He immediately begins channeling his detection spell, but as soon as he activates it, his expression changes to one of disbelief. Felix's eyes widen. His spell fails to penetrate the forge. Shocked, he steps back and wonders aloud what in the world Roman could be doing inside that is powerful enough to block magic. Inside the workshop, Roman continues his work without rest. The power of the fire demon, an ancient energy he had obtained from beneath the endless mountains, radiates through the room. Though this power has already been bound to Roman, it still resists his complete control. Roman's eyes narrow with determination as he thinks to himself that if destiny truly ties him and the fire demon together, then it should obey his will without resistance. Murmuring softly, Roman begins to channel his inferno arts, an ancient technique that merges his mana with the essence of fire itself. At that moment, the scene fades into a memory. In the memory, a dwarf elder stands before Roman. The dwarf warns him that the fire demon's power is something no being in the world can ever truly control. He explains that when the gods allowed fire to exist in the mortal realm, it was meant to be both a blessing and a curse, a source of warmth, but also a force of destruction capable of consuming everything in its path. Do not attempt to dominate the fire demon, the dwarf had told him gravely. Accept it instead. That is its nature, uncontrollable, yet boundless. The memory fades. He wonders quietly if that is truly the natural order, to accept rather than control. Then, with a faint smirk, he finds the idea almost amusing. Roman has always been someone who takes hold of everything he desires. Throughout his life, he has seized every power, every opportunity, and every challenge that stood before him. For him, the idea of submitting to the will of another being, let alone a demon, feels absurd. He clenches his fist and declares in a low, confident voice that this fire demon, too, shall become his to command. The story then transitions to Marquis Valentino's mansion. Inside the grand hall, one of Valentino's subordinates nervously reports that it has already been over half a month. He suggests that perhaps it is time to return to Cairo, reminding the Marquis that he has been away for too long and that the affairs of the Valentino family remain unattended. Marquis Valentino, however, waves his hand dismissively. With a calm smile, he replies that he cannot return just yet. His eyes gleam with excitement as he says that he has been waiting for this very moment. He refuses to miss the instant when Roman's sword is finally completed. Just then, another subordinate bursts into the room. "My lord," he exclaims. Lord Roman has finally emerged from the smithy. Hearing this, Marquis Valentino's expression lights up. Without hesitation, he rises from his seat and orders, "Then we're heading to Dimitry Castle immediately." The scene then shifts once again to Dimitry Castle itself. Holding the sword he has finally completed. A calm smile spreads across Roman's face as he admires his creation. With a deep, steady voice, he declares that with this sword, he can at last accept and command the power of the fire demon.